Hello, welcome to the pull recommendations for Path to Nowhere's 3.5 anniversary. As usual, the full flowchart is up for your easy access, so if you want the TLDR, links in the description, go there, have a look yourself. You can also see the estimated dates for future banners on the site, so you can open that and follow along with this video if you want to. This video is more of me personally elaborating a little more on my thought process behind each recommendation. If I don't talk about a certain banner here, it means it's probably a skip. You can see those listed in this box near the top here. So, let's talk about the 4 heavenly divas of Path to Nowhere, according to me, random YouTuber, that being Jichuan, Shin, Jelena, and LL. Coincidentally, they all have banners in the next 3 months. Right now, Jelena is running on a directional banner, May should be Jichuan's limited banner, and also Shin's directional banner. Finally, we should have an LL directional banner in June. So this is great news for meta chasers. You can gather up all 4 of the best supports in the game in the next 3 months, but not great news for the wallet. Overall, I do encourage everyone to try getting S0 on all of them. All 4 of these divas are either very hard to replace, which is Shin, or they are just outright not replaceable by anyone else in the game, which is the other 3. I don't recommend chasing shackles right now unless you have a lot of savings or you are willing to spend money. If you are willing to spend some money, the paid S-rank selector that comes during the 3.5 anniversary should contain all non-limited S-ranks up to Sun-X. So it should include Shin, Jelena, and LL, but this does not include Jichuan. You can pick one of them from there, save yourself some pain on directional banners. Moreover, Shin is currently buyable with gold tickets in the exchange shop for April, so you can consider getting her there instead of on the banner. Now, let's say you don't have any of them, you're a very new player, and you can only safely guarantee getting one of them. Then I say my first priority would be to think about healers. If you do not have Duro, Hamel, or RF Ariel, then I would go for Shin. She's helped me a ton on my alt account in story and in the current CN server Dark Zone, or even the new main story's final boss. The damage dealt by the enemies is diabolical these days. You actually need healers now. So Shin, very secure, newbie friendly pick. She's gonna be good from the start of the game to the end of the game. Strong healing, good buffs. If you already have a good healer, and then if you play a lot of RF Adela or RF Deren, crit related sinners, I would definitely go for Jelena. Now if you say, but streamer elemental damage bans crit damage, a very big misunderstanding about Jelena is that she is only good for buffing crit damage. This is not true. Jelena is actually in the Xiaofeng team that has gotten 500 million in TOA 13. She buffs a decent amount of attack and damage dealt with a very high uptime, so she's more like a generic support who has a specialty in buffing crit damage into the stratosphere. So if you're playing crit DPSs, then I would definitely go for Jelena as a great synergy, and you'll get a lot out of it. However, if you already have a strong healer, but you do not play a bunch of RF Adela or RF Deren, then I do suggest going for LL instead as a more generic option. My thought process here is like, if you have RF Adela or RF Deren, you are probably fairly late into the game, like you're doing Dark Zone or Peak Test Path, and the damage spike you get from Jelena for those modes will be a massive help. However, if you aren't playing those two, you may not be as far into the endgame, or maybe you're not even interested in endgame battle stuff. In that case, LL makes other sinners much easier to play and the whole experience of Path to Nowhere a lot more comfortable because she's basically extra in powers as a sinner. You get great buffs from her as well, and you just can't go wrong with picking LL. So that's kind of my opinion on, if you can't get all of them, kind of what's the thought process on which you should choose to get. One caveat about Jelena's directional banner specifically. Her directional is still the old system, where the sinner you target only has a 35% win rate. During the 3.5 anniversary, this will actually get changed, so Shin and LL's directional banners will have a 50% win rate. Keeping this in mind, maybe you pick Jelena from the selector, and you take the better rate on Shin and LL's banners, maybe buy Shin in the shop instead. So that's a little small optimization, a little heads up for you. Proceed with caution. Now the next incoming banner is Lichen, which is happening early April, has already been announced. If you plan to pull or play RF Yao later on, then I strongly suggest getting S0 Lichen. Shackles are for molders, I wouldn't really worry about it. I've tested all S0/S1 RF Yao team with Lichen as S0 and it just deleted Dark Zone. I was gagged, like, wow, look here, this shit is crazy. Lichen is just good buffs for RF Yao's damage overall, and during her ult, she can resist being killed by Yao's ult. So you can basically use Lichen to get multiple ults in a row from Yao. By the way, I had to double check this, but you cannot replace Lichen with Rust for Defying Death. Rust will just die anyway to Yao's ult, it won't restore his HP with his stacks, I don't know why. You can use Cassin instead with pretty good effects, but you don't get multiple ults out of Yao during one core break that way, since there is a delay to Cassin's revive. She doesn't really function that well outside of burn, so very much it would be a case of, do you plan to play a lot of RF Yao? Anyway, after Lichen's banner is the 3.5 anniversary around May. It brings a flood of banners, and okay, ignore all that. Look at this. Pull Jichuan! She is the limited sinner this time, and oh my god, this diva is so powerful. What the fuck? I genuinely read her kit, and the first thing I did was go to the Cinder Score and declare my intent to write a guide for her to claim Jichuan cult leader position. She has every molder on CN in a chokehold. I wrote a whole guide about her because autism clearly, and I also think right now there isn't a strong reference point or framework for most players to visualize the value of energy buffs. So I wrote all that and a bunch of math to make a framework of sorts about it for Jichuan and other energy buffers in the future. You want details, you can check out the guide, or you can wait for me to make a video for her because I will, that is a threat. Basically, I recommend everyone to get S1 Jichuan. Every player can benefit hugely from that, and it's great value at a relatively low shackle. I don't really think the gains are worth chasing for S2 and S3, but S4. S4 is some game-breaking nonsense. Just turn your brain off, and whenever she has ult, just use the first one. You never have to think about the situation or plan around boss coverage or whatever. Just use one skill whenever it's up and get massive stonks. At S0, she can grant 40% attack, higher than S3 Shin by the way, or 40% energy regen to the whole team, everyone, including herself. At S4, she can give both to the whole team at the same time. Like, she's so strong that if you've played S4 Shin with Orange Summon before, S1 Jichuan buffs them more than S4 Shin, including the double dip. Yeah, it's crazy. Also, even if you want Yao or Xiaofeng, pull Jichuan first. They both need her in their team, so ensure you get Jichuan first. S4 is super strong, and if you decide to pull one sinner in all of PTN to S4, make that Jichuan. But if you don't have the resources for that, aiming for S1 will be a huge benefit to your teams. Okay, now, after you've secured Jichuan, you can think about the other banners. If you have the materials to reforge her, either from Data Crevice or from the shop, S0 Yao is fantastic and she has so much damage. Some sinners can barely clear Dark Zone these days with 3 good buffs. These HP values are getting whacked, but it's not a problem at all for Yao. If you currently have a solid magic damage team that you are already happy with, such as a mid, high shackle, arcane crit, or RF11, then it's not a must to go for Yao. But if you don't have that, I definitely recommend RF Yao. You cannot get the materials to reforge it though, do not go for Yao. Default, non-reforged Yao is just not up to the meta anymore. You have to reforge her for her to work now. You see Yao videos going around from now on, assume that she has been reforged. S0 is completely fine. I wouldn't really bother with shackles. The RF is just such a huge buff that shackles are kind of whatever. After you secure or skip Yao, it's time to think about your physical DPSs. If you have a strong physical DPS that you're happy with, such as Arfadella, Necrostahella, or even Weak Spot, you can safely skip Xiaofeng and RF Deren. In Path to Nowhere, if you have something that's very meta, it will stay like that for a while. So if you're happy with your teams right now, there isn't really any reason to worry about upgrading. That being said, if you do not have a solid physical damage team right now, there are basically 2 teams you can build into this anniversary, either Xiaofeng or RF Deren. My thoughts are basically like, who do you have more teammates for? If you have Rust and Jichuan, you have Jichuan, right? If you've gotten here, you have Jichuan, right? Right? Then you can consider S1 Xiaofeng. If you have Jelena and Yugu or more, and you have the materials to reforge her, you can consider RF Deren. RF Deren and RF Adela are essentially interchangeable for most people. So you have RF Adela, I would say it's very optional to get RF Deren, don't worry about it. The one I'm sure a lot more people are curious about is Xiaofeng. Basically, I think if you want Xiaofeng, you should get S1. This technically isn't a direct damage increase, but the way it works is that it makes it free for her to summon her first 2 Tiger Spirits, the cost of which at S0 is way bigger of a problem than you would think, especially in short stages. It's just very barely possible to get together enough energy for her with the right team and right buffs at S0, but it's just really tough. So I would strongly recommend getting S1 Xiaofeng if you want to play her to make things a lot smoother. I know a bunch of you watching this have seen all those insane Xiaofeng clears on Bilibili. That is squarely the territory of S4, S5 Xiaofeng. So if you want that, you're gonna have to commit to getting high shackles. S1 to S4 is a very big damage jump. I feel like the situation is comparable to S0, S1 Vautour Bleu versus S4 Vautour Bleu. It's just not the same sinner anymore. If you ask me, between Jichuan and Xiaofeng, who to get to S4 if you can only get one, this is like the Augustus versus Necresta Hela debate all over again. If you go off and pull high shackles on Xiaofeng / Necresta Hela, that's a you decision to learn her team, prepare her teammates, and figure out her kit. Generally speaking, I think the limited here, Jichuan / Augustus, is the one that most people will find easier to play and get more value out of. Frankly speaking, I'm getting both, but the only reason is because I need to make videos. But if I wasn't, I would probably skip Xiaofeng entirely because I like my RF Adela and I like RF Deren. So which one are you? Don't ask me, I can't read your mind, decide for yourself. This is just information I'm giving you to help you figure things out. If you still have pulls after this, somehow there's one more sinner during anniversary worth thinking about, Yingying. She enables all Arcane Sinners to crit even at S0, which opens up all future Arcane Sinners to new possibilities. I think it's worth it to try and get S0 just to have her in case we get a strong Arcane Reforge or a new Sinner, since this trait is unique only to her and you can't overcome it with any other Sinner. If for some reason you have S4 Vautour Bleu but no Yingying, and you also have Yugu and Jelena, then I do actually recommend you get S0, maybe S1 Yingying, because at high shackles, Vautour Bleu is still very strong and can max clear most content if she's allowed to crit. Following on from that, there is actually a Vautour Bleu and Shin Directional, like I said, towards the end of anniversary. Probably late May, mid-May-ish. If you do not already have Vautour Bleu, I do not recommend pulling on her here. Don't do it. S1 Vautour Bleu is not worth it compared to S0 RF Yao. I would only recommend either pulling for Shin here, or if you have S3 Vautour Bleu already, then getting that one more shackle to S4 is very worth it. But don't stop pulling her from S0, that's just a ton of pull risk which you could invest into one of the 4 Heavenly Divas instead. After that should be Ceto's Rerun. You're most likely broke as hell, so skip to recover from anniversary wallet thievery. Only pull S0 Ceto if you have like S3, S4 Augustus and you don't already have Ceto for some reason. Even then you could like wait 2-3 more months from this point on to exchange gold tickets for Ceto in the shop, so probably skip her. Once Ceto's Rerun is over, we get a new sinner called Clementine. She's a part of Xiaofeng's team, intended to be a core breaker and amper for the main DPS, kind of like Ceto is for Augustus. If you did pull Xiaofeng, then I do recommend her. S0 is complete, S1 is good value and worth getting. Especially if you skipped Rush but ended up pulling Xiaofeng, then I strongly recommend Clementine to help with amp and restoring over limit value for Xiaofeng. Generically, she's actually insanely good at ROTD and a chunk of her buff is generic physical damage, but I would recommend most people who aren't playing Xiaofeng to skip her because number 1, anniversary recovery, number 2, the directional banner that happens during Clementine's event contains LL. Yes, tragic news for the wallet. Of course, if you do not have S0 LL, definitely get her here. It's been a year and a half since she was released and she is still meta, still used in a ton of teams. This game is separated between players who have LL and players who don't have LL, frankly. S1 is nice. S3 is very strong, but she is complete at S0, so pull shackles according to what resources you have. That is as far as we know right now for future banners. Hope you've learned something new from this video and that it gave you a better roadmap for making your own pull plans. Good luck to everyone. May all Jichuan wanters be Jichuan havers. Here's the giveaway section. One winner will receive the Yingying themed snack box from the official collab on the Chinese server, which comes with some merch like keychains and standees of her. The other will receive the limited edition Zoya medal featuring her 4-star attire from hitting an achievement in another official collab that happened also on the Chinese server. Both of these gifts were sponsored by a very kind fellow chief as a fun thing for us on the global server, so shout out to them. Rules are very simple. Leave a comment on this video and tell me which of the 2 prizes you would like and about your favorite thing or things in Path to Nowhere from the last year. So between Yingying's event and now, what was an event, song, character, specific CG or anything really that stood out to you and why? There's no need to follow me or prove it or whatever. I'm too lazy to check, just leave a comment on this video. I will pick the winners on the last day of the 3.5 anniversary as announced by Eisno, whenever that is, and reply to the comment asking for your Discord or email to contact you about where I should mail the prize. I'll foot the bill for the shipping fee, so just make sure you have an address I can safely send the package to. That is the real end of this video. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye bye!